Women can and ought to be judged by the criteria of feminism.
We are going to be raising our daughters to be homemakers and...
Hi everyone, I've been wanting to make this video for such a long time. I will be talking about the Serena Joy Effect and how conservative women uphold the patriarchy. And especially for this video, I've got my little ballerina right here. If you've seen The Handmaid's Tale or read The Handmaid's Tale, you might be familiar with the entire symbolism of the ballerina box. Who is Serena Joy? Serena Joy Waterford is one of the most terrifying characters ever to me because she's what conservative women symbolize and the way they vote against their own rights. But Serena Joy is a fictional character first introduced by us in the 1985 novel The Handmaid's Tale, written by Margaret Atwood. And of course, many of you will know Serena Joy from the critically acclaimed TV series The Handmaid's Tale. I think it's important to talk about the world of The Handmaid's Tale a little bit to truly grasp how evil Serena is and the things that she does. The Handmaid's Tale takes place in a very dystopian version of the United States. And the US government is violently overthrown by a group of religious fundamentalists who want to establish a theocratic religious government known as Gilead.
Women can't own property.
In this world, birth rates have dropped dramatically due to years of pollution, chemical exposure, STDs, and most of the population are infertile, and pregnancy is very, very rare.
Whipped up a special plague. The plague of infertility.
But Gilead truly believes that the birth rates have dropped dramatically due to feminism, the LGBTQ community, sexual freedom, birth control, and women choosing to go to work instead of staying home and having babies. And according to Gilead, the fertility crisis isn't a medical problem. They argue that women have strayed too far from their God-given roles, and that is why the world is falling apart and God is punishing them for it. Alright, and the really sick and twisted part, if that wasn't already sick and twisted enough, is that Gilead believes that only women are infertile. It is literally illegal to say that a man can be sterile.
Daryl, that's a forbidden word.
Waterford can't get you pregnant. They won't blame him. It'll be your fault.
Even though male infertility is just as common in Gilead, like I have said, Gilead wants to fix the birth rate problem by creating a very disturbing, to say the least, system where people are being put in different social classes. So I won't be able to talk about every single person in this hierarchy, but I will talk about the handmaids and the commander's wife. And the handmaids are recognized by their red cloaks and their white headpieces known as angel wings. The handmaids are the few fertile women, and they are raped every month by the commander while the commander's wife holds them down, and they call this the ceremony. They are assigned to a commander's wife, and they are meant to bear children for them. Their identities are completely erased and they are given new names. So for instance, in the show we have a character named June, and June is assigned to Fred Waterford, so they call her Off Fred, she's Off Fred. So any form of identity is just completely obliterated, and it's absolutely terrifying. And the handmaids get 3 chances to get pregnant, and if they're not pregnant by the end of those 3 chances, they are being sent to the colonies, which are essentially toxic wastelands where they're meant to clean up radioactive waste until they die and their skin falls apart. Then you have the commander's wives, and they are recognized by the color blue. They are upper class women married to commanders, and they are symbolically powerful but legally powerless, and none of the women in Gilead are allowed to read or write, not even the commander's wife. So now let's talk about Serena Joy. Before Gilead, Serena Joy Waterford was a prominent figure in the far-right movement. She was a very convincing author and public speaker, and she was best known for her book called A Woman's Place. And A Woman's Place was essentially a call for women to return to their domestic life and embrace submission. And now in Gilead, she is the wife of a commander. She's the commander of Fred Waterford, and Serena appears to have status. She lives in a very luxurious home, she wears nice dresses, but is actually at the mercy of the state and of her husband.
Everybody answers to God.
And you answer to me.
power is just an illusion. She cannot read, she cannot make decisions.
Society in which women can no longer read your book.
And the irony being that she helped create this very regime, and she ends up silencing herself and leaving her feeling empty. Serena represents the conservative woman who advocates for submission and for domestic feminism, truly believing that she will be rewarded by the men around her and by God. And Serena too truly believes that she's the exception. She upholds and reinforces patriarchal systems.
I'm blessed to have a home and a husband to care for and follow.
Thinking that she will benefit from them. Now let's get into the Tradwife movement and conservative womanhood. As you might know, Serena Joy is based on a real-life woman called Phyllis Schlafly. And if you've seen Miss America, you might be familiar with Phyllis Schlafly. And Phyllis was a very successful lawyer. She was a public speaker and activist, and yet she spent most of her life telling women not to seek those things. And in the 1970s, there was a major movement to pass the Equal Rights Amendment, also known as the ERA, which basically said that men and women should be treated equally under the law. I mean, But Phyllis led the campaign to stop the Equal Rights Amendment. She literally had a movement called Stop ERA. And she claimed that the ERA would ruin the American family, force women into military drafts, and take away special protections for housewives.
Now, the home is the most fulfilling place for most women.
She framed feminism as this big, scary force that would make women miserable and rip society apart.
They are trying to convert us into a gender-neutral society.
That the feminists are not only anti-men, but they're very anti-masculine.
And what's wild to me is that this was a woman with 6 kids, a law degree, and a national political platform. She was absolutely thriving in a world that feminism made possible, while using that success to shut the door on other women. She became a mouthpiece for the very system that would have limited her own career if applied to her. But of course, they think that they are the exception. You've probably seen them on TikTok, and they're called Tradwife influencers. They post videos of themselves baking sourdough while wearing prairie dresses, talking about biblical femininity and how women should submit themselves to their husbands. On the surface, it's all very soft and wholesome and cottagecore. Not just saying this lifestyle makes me happy, they're saying this is the right way to be a woman. Feminism has lied to you. Modernity makes miserable, and real fulfillment is in submission. A lot of these Tradwife creators talk about the divine order and natural roles, and they believe in a thing called gender essentialism. They promote the idea that women are meant to serve, they're meant to cook, raise children, and support their husbands. Some even argue that working outside the home is a feminist trick that took away your femininity. Again, what's super Serena Joy about all of this is that so many of these women are incredibly online, making money by telling women to stay quiet and stay home.
Marriage is falling apart because the God who created it is being left out of it. And an overall disconnect in the home because the one created to nurture it has been empowered to neglect.
And they gain a lot of power, a lot of influence by telling women to give their influence and their power up.
How beautiful it is for women to maybe just step aside and prioritize their family. And
one thing I would like to point out is that there is a significant difference between stay-at-home moms and Tradwives. Stay-at-home moms may choose to stay home for practical reasons such as childcare or simply because they enjoy house management, while Tradwives adhere strictly to traditional gender roles driven by a distinct belief in their necessity or in their virtue. And one of the most well-known Tradwife bloggers is called Lori Alexander, and she runs a Christian blog named The Transformed Wife. And Alexander frequently argues that feminism has led to broken homes, confused gender roles, and women's unhappiness. And she promotes absolute submission to their husbands, even in cases of emotional neglect or disagreement, because she believes it's a woman's duty to preserve peace.
It's a lie to think that you can be a mother and in the workforce and do both well. You are unable to be two places at one time. 45% of women will be childless. Population rates are tanking. Women are not having children. They're not getting married. Why are women no longer wanting to get married and having children? Women, it's so easy. Because they're not being taught.
I made the mistake of going to her blog and trying to see this for myself while I was doing research because I had never heard of the woman. So I was like, well, okay, sure, why not? And it was truly as crazy as it sounds. I was just completely shocked for the rest of the day, honestly. And in one particular post, she says that, and I quote, "Contrary to popular opinion, it is good for a woman to depend upon the men for protection and provision. It is the way the Lord created them to be. Women are the nurturers and homemakers, and men are the protectors and providers in God's perfect plan." And even though each of these influencers presents themselves quite differently, some are more spiritual and some are more aesthetic, the message that they share is pretty consistent. Like, women are happiest when they're at home, modern feminism is misguided or destructive, or submission to one's husband is either biblical, natural, or both. Now, why some women align with the patriarchy? Why would a woman support a system that limits her own freedom? I've never really understood it, but it kind of makes sense when you unpack it psychologically, socially, or historically. Women aligning themselves with the patriarchy isn't about stupidity or weakness per se. It's more about survival, a form of identity, belonging, and power within a structure that was never designed for them. There are a couple of reasons, the first being power through proximity. Sometimes women don't challenge the patriarchy but lean into it to gain power from within. In a system where men dominate, aligning yourself with powerful men can provide status and influence. And again, coming back to Serena Joy, in the Handmaid's Tale, she helps create a lot of the rules in Gilead.
Serena, you built this whole world!
And once in Gilead, she's completely silenced and stripped of her rights and basically imprisoned by her own vision, yet she clings to the system because it's the only thing and the only world where she still has some influence, even though it's through her husband. Second reason being the myth of exceptionalism. A lot of these women believe in the myth of exceptionalism. They truly believe that they are safe from any harm and the rules that might apply to other women, but not to them. And it allows women to defend the systems that hurt other women because they believe they found a way to succeed within that system, even though it's often temporary, which we see with Serena Joy as well. The patriarchy loves an exceptional woman because they are the proof that the system works. And they become the spokesperson, the influence, the success stories that others are told to aspire to, even though most women won't be allowed that level of visibility or freedom. And Serena too believed that she'd stay above it all and that she could write the rules and live in comfort and be immune to the consequences. And I want to talk about Serena Joy a little bit again, because in season 6, she's admitted that Gilead did not turn out the way she wanted to. And Serena is one of my favorite characters because she's so complex and such a well-written character. And she's not just fueled by religion or patriarchal values, she's fueled by fear, by desire and anger, and she suppresses that so much.
You're cruel. And you're empty.
I think Yvonne's performance brings so much nuance to her character, and I think it's so well done, and I love Yvonne. In uncertain times like economic instability or social upheaval, people tend to cling to tradition because it feels safer, simpler, and more natural. The patriarchy promises order, and there are certain rules to the patriarchy, and patriarchy can feel like safety, whereas feminism can feel like loneliness. And the system turns on them because eventually the system always turns on them. It might not be immediate and it might even feel like empowerment at first, but because these systems are ultimately built on controlling women and not uplifting them, the moment a woman steps out of line or is no longer useful, she becomes disposable. Take Phyllis Schlafly, for instance. Of course, like I mentioned before, Phyllis Schlafly was often credited for stopping the Equal Rights Amendment in the 1970s, and she rallied a lot of housewives and used her public speaking skills and became the face of anti-feminism, yet at the same time she was belittled and mocked by men. And many male politicians she worked alongside didn't take her seriously, like I said before, and these were her allies. And the dust was settled, the ERA was defeated. Schlafly didn't gain political office or any real long-term political gain or power. They used her and then she was sidelined. Now, Serena Joy helped create Gilead and then found herself trapped in it. The irony isn't just fiction, it's a reflection of what happens to women who align themselves with the patriarchy built to control them. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time, hopefully.